A major shift in the Trump administration's Ukraine policy on Monday as Washington ramps up weapons shipments to Ukraine to include offensive long-range missiles capable of striking deep into Russian territory and even into Moscow. This will be the first time that the Trump administration authorizes new weapons to Kyiv, to include Patriot air defense batteries meant to shoot down Russian Shahed kamikaze drones and ballistic missiles that have been raining down on Ukrainian cities in record numbers. This major policy shift comes as NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte visits Washington, meeting with President Trump. NATO member states will be purchasing the new U.S. weapons and then transferring them to Ukraine. Selling the weapons to NATO allies makes the move more aligned with President Trump's America First policy agenda. Previously, most weapons sent to Ukraine came directly from existing U.S. weapons stockpiles. The genesis for President Trump's policy decision came about following his meeting in late June with the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky during a NATO summit. That meeting reset the personal relations between the two leaders. And reports here in Washington indicate that President Trump then made up his mind to authorize additional weapon shipments following a July 3rd phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. It was a call that left a lasting impression on President Trump, who has become increasingly convinced that Putin is not serious about peace negotiations. Axios reported that the Russian leader made it clear that he will pursue an aggressive military campaign this summer in an attempt to capture more Ukrainian territory. That has angered President Trump, apparently. And the president has been very public with his frustration towards Putin's refusal to halt the war. And his announcement is a reflection that President Trump believes that added military pressure will be required to convince the Kremlin to shift its own policy. In the meantime, Zelensky met President Trump's special envoy, General Keith Kellogg, to discuss boosting Ukraine's air defense, joint arms production, and defense procurement with European allies. Western intelligence estimate that Russian armed forces have likely suffered about 236,000 casualties, that's killed and wounded, so far in 2025, as Russian attacks across multiple front lines have continued at a high level, with steady advances made by the Russians in Ukraine's eastern Donbass region. President Trump has also said that he is giving Russia 50 days to make a deal or else face 100%, quote, secondary tariffs, referring to a plan to impose tariffs on countries like China and India, who are major buyers of Russian oil. That could also have a major impact on global oil markets and significantly impact Russia's own economy, which is largely dependent on oil and gas exports. Ube Shabander for A News, Washington, D.C.